Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep. And after last week's break, this My Hero Academia chapter didn't fail to blow our minds. We also learned a lot about the relationship between Bakugo and Deku, along with finally filling all potential plot points that Horikoshi could have left out. But remember, my guy is just too big brain. He doesn't leave anything behind. Apart from me hyping up Horikoshi, let's actually get into this chapter.
Woo! It's showtime!
Right off the bat, we start this chapter from where we last left off, in which our best boy Deku managed to unlock his third one-for-all quirk float. This quirk belonged to the 7th user of one-for-all, Nana Shimura, who was All Might Sensei and the grandmother of Shigaraki. Our ballsy prediction came true in every way possible, from us predicting that the float quirk will be unlocked in this exact dire situation, from Deku using his emotions and desires to match the requirements to unlock it. We also mentioned the significance of Nana's float quirk and how it represented a form of atonement for the wrong decision Nana and Gran Torino made. In order to protect her son and family, Nana decided to leave her child behind, thinking it was the best thing for him, when in reality this abandonment fueled the very hate and psychological effect towards her son and eventually her grandson, who becomes the monster we see in today's chapter. So if you think about it, float being an effective counter to decay was not only epic but also poetic. Now moving on to this chapter, Deku is still in the air whilst using Black Whip to hold everyone including Shigaraki. Deku using the float quirk also becomes evident that this activation was very intentional and that All Might, Deku and Bakugo planned for this very moment in some sort of way. Now while in the air, Deku thinks to himself of the importance of having the fight between him and Shigi to be dealt with within the air, because if Shigaraki touches the ground, he will just use his decay quirk to cause another huge wave of destruction and everything will pretty much be over. But as Deku realizes what needs to be done, he starts losing control of his quirks. Let's not forget, this kid is using both Black Whip and float at the same time. So to lessen the strain, Deku releases our heroes back to the ground, telling them to look after Gran Torino. The moment they land, Endeavor takes charge and orders Shoto, his son, to take care of the injured, as he thinks to himself of being nothing but pathetic, failing to take care of Shigaraki himself as the #1 hero. He's not alone in this either, as Bakugo shouts Deku's name aloud, telling him that he isn't supposed to fight Shigi. In fact, he needs to be as far away as possible from him, especially since Eraserhead is down for the count. At this point, Deku being near Shigaraki is super risky, and we still don't know for sure if All For One is actually able to take One For All, but if it can, Deku is playing with fire. Either way, Deku shouts back at Bakugo, telling him that right now there isn't anyone else who can keep Shigaraki up in the air, so he doesn't have any choice. This reality really dawns on Endeavor and Bakugo, both feeling useless during the situation, leaving everything to Deku, who in fact is the one Shigaraki was after from the start. Their goal was to protect Deku, not Deku protecting them. Now with Shigaraki held up in the air with Deku's float and Black Whip combo, he tells Deku, "If you like this guy so much, then I'll take One For All off your hands and send you straight to heaven, and I'll make sure all those old geezers down there will keep you company." Deku gets pissed off at Shigaraki's threat of killing his friends, and Sensei shouting, "Leave them alone, don't you dare hurt anyone else." Deku then yanks himself towards Shigi with his Black Whip to deal a 100% One For All blow to Shigaraki's face. As Deku goes in for the attack, Bakugo looks on in frustration as he starts to remember a moment during Deku's training. In Bakugo's eyes, everything they did in some ways is coming into play. We get a flashback of All Might, Bakugo and Deku requesting help with training from Zero, Uraraka and Frog Girl Tsuyu. But before we get any further explanation on the training, the trio asks Deku what's up with his hair, because this dude is rocking an afro. Our boy looks like all his hair follicles has been electrocuted. And don't get me wrong, I'm actually kinda digging it. Afro Deku needs to be a merch. For reals though, if you guys want that, let us know in the comment section below, and make sure to check out our merch store where you can support us and harness our balls, the prediction magic quirk. So make sure to check the link in the comment section and description below, and you guys can also join these lovely people by sharing you wearing our merch on Twitter and Instagram. But coming back to our flashback, Deku explains how he got his new hairdo from all the training he did with Bakugo. Yes, no surprise, Bakugo blew Deku's hair out of proportion. We then come to know that Deku was training to use his Black Whip to effectively tie his enemies. However, he wasn't able to succeed even once with Bakugo, which brings us back to the reason Deku requested help from these guys. He then asked Zero for tips on how to handle fast moving targets, as Zero also uses a similar type of quirk. Zero in response asks him curiously, why don't they just get Aizawa sensei to give him a hand, but All Might lets him know that Aizawa is currently occupied, indicating that he went to see Kurogiri. All Might then further elaborates, telling Uraraka that she can help Deku with his air control and how to hit breaks while airborne, and even though Deku is improving his time while airborne, he needs to keep pushing his limits. Did she just call Nami from Black Clover and Deku will break his limits in no time? Okay, now a quick point to address is that so far this flashback is so important as it lets us know that Deku isn't just a plot hole broken character that mastered a new quirk like Float from thin air. Rather, All Might, Deku and Bakugo all knew that Float will be the next quirk that will be unlocked, as we know from chapter 257, and they did everything they could to prepare for that moment to come. Deku even stated that he is writing down notes on everyone's quirk, even Aizawa Sensei's. All of this shows the level of knowledge that Deku had prior to even unlocking Float, along with him being able to master his second quirk, Black Whip. Now, as we go back to the training session with Uraraka, we see that she is using her zero gravity quirk to teach Deku on how to move around in the air. She says that it's almost like swimming. Our boy Deku instantly catches on and works out how to move in the air by using his quirk to thrust and move himself around. Of course, you know Uraraka is impressed by Deku's thrust, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, boy. Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Moving on, All Might suggests to Deku that he should try to use Black Whip while he's in the air before walking over to Bakugo, telling Bakugo that because zero gravity and Float are so similar, Deku will actually be able to unlock Float a lot easier because he already know how it feels to use it. He will just need to focus and want to actually fly. Now, a while back we also mentioned the similarities between Uraraka's quirk and Float. We suggested that she will play an important part to Deku's understanding of how to use the Float quirk, so it's pretty cool that this theory also came into effect. But coming back to the flashback, Bakugo tells All Might that he can't fool everyone forever about Deku's quirk. The fact that he keeps on gaining new quirks is going to reveal one for all secret. All Might admits that he would have liked to have kept Deku from showing off his other quirks, but it's better if Deku doesn't suddenly unlock the quirks in the middle of a battle, like he did with Black Whip. It'd be better if people around him see him grow, so when it's revealed it's not such a huge deal. All Might makes it a point that not everyone who wants power is a villain, but Bakugo confesses that he has complete trust in Deku. Bakugo then addresses the problem is that when he was looking through the notebook that has the information about the previous holders of One for All, the fourth holder's quirk was scribbled out, but everyone after that put theirs down, even pointing out that back in chapter 257 when Bakugo brought up the previous holders, All Might hesitated in talking about them. All Might is clearly hiding something about the fourth user but refuses to reveal what it is. Now guys, this could hint towards that the fourth user was either a villain or didn't follow the will of One for All. Like, there has to be a reason. And if you guys remember, we actually have seen the fourth user of One for All already. That's the dude with the scar on his left eye. It's possible that this scar in his left eye could give us some clues for his quirk being scribbled out, as this seems to be his most defining feature, and in anime, character design tells a lot about a person's story. Who knows, his quirk might be something parallel to Decay. It could be like Decay. In fact, it could be a deadly dangerous quirk. We might cover this more in detail in another video where we explain all of the One for All users. If you guys want that, then let us know in the comment section below, and make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Now, as we move back to Bakugo's deep conversation with All Might, we finally get a confirmation to the psychology of Bakugo's action when he bullied Deku. He tells his sensei that Deku just doesn't understand how special he is, and that's why he used to be so annoyed by him. Bakugo says Deku isn't thinking of himself deep down, he's probably always been like that. He found it weird and wanted to get away from it. He didn't understand him, so he bullied him. We actually cover why Bakugo used to feel this way in our Bakugo video, which I suggest you guys check it out for a deeper understanding. But at this moment, Bakugo feels as though him helping Deku out with his training is almost atonement for the years of bullying he put him through. All Might points out that Bakugo's situation reminds him a lot about his and Endeavor's relationship. He never really thought about the future and how Endeavor was always trying to catch up, and what that could mean for Endeavor and society as a whole whenever he had to step down as the #1 hero. So as the flashback to Deku's training comes to an end, we see a beautiful panel of Deku flying up with Shigaraki in the grasp of his Black Whip. The art from this panel is evident of Deku's current emotional turmoil. He doesn't want his friends to die. He wants to rid Shigaraki and save everyone. Deku is giving his all and going plus ultra. On the next page, Deku and Shigaraki are in the air sideways as the ground is beneath them. Shigaraki is struggling to get out of Deku's hands, but we learn more about how much of a monster he really is, as this dude has taken so many of Deku's 100% punches and yet is still breathing. Deku says that he already destroyed his left arm 2 times, but he keeps regenerating them. Could all this struggle be for nothing? Was Deku and the heroes too late and Shigaraki is already unbeatable? The answer is no. There is still some glimmer of hope left. Deku tells us that Shigaraki's regeneration has slowed down after taking his hits over and over again. This is likely because Shigaraki is only at 75% of power he was promised by the doctor. This could be the tiny chance the heroes have of getting out of there alive. However, with all that, I still personally believe that the heroes will lose this battle. I don't think there is a logical way Shigaraki is beaten completely, and there is also the juiced up Gigantomachia that's running havoc for Momo and the other heroes outside of the city. There's also the fact that the fourth one for all quirk was mentioned in this chapter. Why was it brought up just now? Is it possibly something that can affect this battle and stall Shigaraki and possibly defeat him in the future after Deku has the hang of it after his training? Moving on, this chapter comes to an end as Deku says that one for all will be the power to topple Shigaraki's all for one. He then gets his fist ready and starts channeling everything into a final blow to end things. I'm so hyped for the next chapter, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna see Gigantomachia, Darby and everyone come into play. Everyone's gonna be in the mix and there will be some sort of clash where these two opposing sides will end up disengaging. Now guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to grab that Deku merch as it helps us out a lot and allows us to do these weekly reviews and analysis on these chapters. But make sure to also follow us on Twitter and Reddit for updates on manga and anime content. With that, see you till next time guys.